I was finalizing the last few details for our wedding when I decided to call the venue. It was just a routine confirmation, something simple to check off my list. The woman on the phone sounded polite but hesitant, like she wasn't sure what to say. "I'm sorry, but your name isn't listed on the contract anymore," she finally said. "Your fiancé made some changes last week." For a second, I thought I misheard her. My name wasn't on the contract? How was that possible? I had been the one handling all the arrangements. I had chosen the venue, spoken to the event coordinator, and even put down the deposit. There had to be a mistake. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "There must be some misunderstanding," I said. "I'm the bride. I was the one who booked the venue." She hesitated. "I understand, but your fiancé came in with his mother last week. He told us there were some changes and that he'd be handling everything from now on." I felt my stomach drop. "He did what?" Still trying to sound composed, I asked, "What kind of changes?" "Well," she said carefully, "he had your name removed from all the paperwork and replaced it with his mother's." I gripped the phone tighter. My mind raced. Why would he do this? And why hadn't he told me? I thanked her and ended the call, my hands trembling. A wave of emotions hit me all at once: confusion, anger, disbelief. My own fiancé had secretly removed me from my own wedding plans, and he hadn't even mentioned it. Not once. I could still hear his voice in my head from just the night before, acting like everything was normal, acting like we were planning our wedding together. I sat down, replaying the past few months in my mind. Had I missed the signs? There had been small things, little decisions he made without asking me, suggestions that seemed harmless at the time. He had started pushing for certain things, talking about how weddings were really for the families more than for the couple. He always brushed off my concerns with a laugh, telling me I was overthinking. But now, it all made sense. He had never planned for it to be our wedding. He had planned for it to be his wedding on his terms, controlled by him and his mother. I felt sick. Instead of texting him right away, I took a deep breath and decided to check something first. I logged into my email, searching for our venue receipts and contracts. I found them quickly, but the latest email was different. The confirmation email now had his email listed instead of mine. I clicked on the contract attachment, scrolling through the details. The bride's name, blank. The groom's name, his. The second contact, his mother. A chill ran through me. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was deliberate. And if he had done this behind my back, what else had he done? I dug deeper, checking our shared wedding planning documents, our emails, even our travel bookings. That's when I found something that made my blood run cold. The honeymoon reservation, the one we had chosen together, had also been changed. The dates were the same, but there was only one name on the reservation. His. He had never planned on me being there. My hands felt numb as I stared at the honeymoon reservation. There was only one name on the booking. His. Not mine. Not even a placeholder for a second traveler. He had planned an entire trip to our supposed honeymoon destination and removed me from it completely. My heart pounded as I scrolled through the details. The flight was first class, fully paid for. The hotel? A 5-star beachfront resort, booked under his name alone. A sinking realization hit me. This wasn't just about the wedding. He had planned everything, every step, to cut me out. He had taken control of the wedding, the venue, and now even the honeymoon. But why? I took a deep breath and opened his emails. We had exchanged messages about wedding planning before, so I searched for anything related to the honeymoon. And that's when I saw it. An email thread between him and his best man sent a few days ago. "Bro, she has no idea. The way things are going, the wedding might not even happen, but either way, I'm set for a break. She'll freak out when she finds out I changed the venue details, but it'll be too late by then. I'll deal with the fallout later. At least I get the honeymoon either way. No losses for me." I froze. He had never intended for us to get married. I read the email again, my breath shaking. The wedding might not even happen? No losses for me? He had been stringing me along this whole time. Did he even want to get married at all, or was this just a power play? I clenched my jaw, my initial shock slowly morphing into something sharper. The weight of his deception settled over me, but instead of feeling weak, I felt something else. Focused. He thought he was in control. He thought I was clueless. But I wasn't clueless anymore. Instead of reacting right away, I did what I always did when something felt wrong. I gathered my facts. If he thought he could get away with this, he was about to learn the hard way that I wasn't someone to be underestimated. I spent the next few hours going through everything. I checked our wedding finances, making sure that no more money was tied to anything he could manipulate. I scanned through the credit card statements and saw exactly how he had slowly moved wedding-related payments over to his personal account, probably hoping I wouldn't notice. Then, I checked our airline account. We had used his frequent flyer miles to book the honeymoon tickets, but we still had a shared travel account with access to the reservations, and just as I suspected, I could modify them. A plan started forming in my head. He wanted to play dirty? Fine. I could play smarter. I didn't sleep that night. My mind was racing, going over every detail, every lie he had told, every secret he had kept. The more I thought about it, the more it became clear. He had been planning this for months. He had slowly been cutting me out of the wedding, out of the finances, out of the entire relationship without ever saying a word. And now, he thought he had everything under control. But he didn't realize something. I wasn't going to sit back and let him win. The next morning, I kept my routine as normal as possible. I made coffee, answered a few work emails, and acted like I had no idea what was happening. I even sent him a text. "Morning. Hope you're having a good day. Can't wait for our big day." He replied almost immediately. "Morning, babe. Just a few more weeks. It's all coming together perfectly." I almost laughed. He was so confident, so sure that I was in the dark, oblivious to what was coming. I spent the next few hours making my final moves. First, I went to the bank. Since I had been handling a lot of the wedding expenses, I made sure that every single dollar of my money was moved out of our shared account. I left just enough to keep it from looking suspicious. Let him think everything was still fine. Then I called the venue. "I'd like to cancel the wedding," I said, my voice steady. The woman on the other end sounded surprised. "Are you sure? Your fiancé was just here last week finalizing everything." I smiled. "Yes, I'm sure. And I'd like to make sure that no one, not him, not his mother, can reinstate it under my name." "Understood." She hesitated, then added, "I'm really sorry. I thought it was strange when he made the changes, but I didn't want to assume." "It's okay," I said, and for the first time, I meant it. Because now, I was in control. And finally, I logged into the airline account. His first-class honeymoon flight was sitting right there, confirmed, just waiting for departure. I clicked on the reservation and made the change. Instead of a luxury beach resort, I rebooked his flight to nowhere. I picked the most inconvenient destination I could find. A remote airport, several layovers, 0 refunds. I switched his hotel reservation as well, canceling the fancy beachfront suite and replacing it with a budget motel in the middle of nowhere. And then I sat back and waited. The next few days passed as if nothing had changed. I played my role perfectly, acting like the excited fiancé, completely oblivious to what was really happening. He continued to text me sweet messages, asking me about last-minute wedding details, all while knowing that he had already taken full control. But I had control now. The night before everything fell apart, we had dinner together. I watched him closely, noticing every little detail I had ignored before. The smug way he talked about how some surprises make weddings more exciting. the way he casually checked his phone as if waiting for some grand moment to arrive. He was playing a game, and he thought he had already won. I smiled through it all, nodding, laughing at his jokes, pretending I was so lucky to be marrying such a wonderful man. He had no idea that in less than 24 hours, his entire plan was about to explode in his face. The next morning, everything started unraveling. It began with a phone call from his mother. I was just finishing my coffee when my phone buzzed. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the best of me. "Hello?" There was a pause, then a deep, dramatic sigh. "We have a problem." I almost laughed at how serious she sounded, as if the world had just collapsed around her. "Oh?" I said, playing dumb. She exhaled sharply. "The venue just called me. They said you canceled the wedding. Is this some kind of mistake? Why would you do that?" I took a sip of my coffee, letting the silence drag out just long enough to make her uncomfortable. Then I said, "Oh, I don't know. Maybe because I wasn't even listed on the contract anymore?" Silence. I could hear the gears turning in her head, scrambling to find a way to spin this, to twist the blame onto me. "Well, that was just a precaution, dear. You know, in case of emergencies. Of course you were still the bride." I smirked. "Really? Because it didn't seem like it when I called. It sounded like you and your son had everything under control without me." Her tone turned sharper. "You're being unreasonable. You're ruining everything. Do you know how much we've already invested in this?" "We." Not me and my fiancé, just them. I stayed calm. "Well, it's already canceled, so I guess you'll have to find a new plan." I hung up before she could say another word. Then, it was his turn. An hour later, I got the text I had been waiting for. "Babe, what the hell is going on? My flight's been changed? The hotel says my reservation is gone?" I smiled. "Showtime." I waited a few minutes before replying. "Oh no, that's so weird. Let me check." Of course, I didn't check anything. I already knew what he was seeing. The multiple layovers, the random flight path that made no sense, the one-way ticket to absolutely nowhere. No refund, no backup plan, no escape. Another text. This time, angrier. "Did you do this?" I finally responded. "Did you take my name off our wedding venue?" The dots appeared immediately. Then they disappeared. Then they appeared again. He was stuck. He knew he couldn't lie his way out of this. I didn't wait for a response. I sent one final message. "Hope you enjoy your trip. I hear it's a great place for surprises." Then I turned off my phone, let him sit in his mess. I didn't hear from him for the next few hours. I imagined the chaos he must have been dealing with, frantically calling the airline, trying to undo the changes, realizing there was nothing he could do. His perfect little plan had just crumbled before his eyes, and the best part? He did it to himself. By noon, my phone was flooded with missed calls and voicemails, not just from him, but from his mother as well. I didn't bother listening to them. I already knew what they'd say. "How could you do this? You ruined everything. We can fix this, just call me back." But there was nothing left to fix. There was never a wedding to begin with, at least, not one I was ever supposed to be part of. Then came the real explosion. A mutual friend texted me, What's going on? I just saw Fiancé's name's rant on Facebook. You might want to check it out." I didn't want to, but curiosity got the best of me. I opened his page, and sure enough, there it was. A long, angry post, dripping with self-pity and fake victimhood. I can't believe the woman I was supposed to marry would be so cruel. I tried to plan the perfect wedding, and instead of appreciating my efforts, she canceled everything and sabotaged our honeymoon. I guess some people don't know the meaning of love and commitment. I gave her everything, and this is how she repays me. Betrayal at its finest. I actually laughed out loud. Betrayal? That was rich coming from him. The comment section was a war zone. Some of his friends and family jumped to his defense, people who probably had no idea what had actually happened, but others weren't buying it. Wait, didn't she pay for the venue? Why would she cancel her own wedding? Dude, why was her name taken off the contract in the first place? This isn't adding up. So she sabotaged your honeymoon? But weren't you the one who booked the trip for one? Every time someone defended him, another person would come in with actual logic that made him look even worse. He tried responding to a few comments, but he was spiraling, contradicting himself over and over until it became painfully obvious. He was lying. Then, the best part happened. One of his groomsmen, someone I had always gotten along with, left a comment that changed everything. Man, tell them the truth. You were never planning on marrying her, were you? You just wanted to make sure you had control over everything. Don't act like the victim now. I almost felt bad for him. Almost. Because at that moment, his entire carefully crafted lie fell apart. He deleted the post, blocked me. And then, complete silence. No more angry texts, no more desperate calls. He had lost, and he knew it. By the time the dust settled, I felt lighter than I had in months. I had been so caught up in wedding planning, so focused on building a future with someone I thought I knew, that I hadn't realized how much of myself I had been losing. He had slowly chipped away at my voice, my choices, my control, until I was just along for the ride in my own life. But now, I was back in the driver's seat. The fallout from his meltdown spread fast. Word got around quickly. Friends, family, even distant acquaintances found out the truth. His mother, the mastermind behind half of this mess, tried to save face, calling mutual relatives to spin some story about how I had overreacted and misunderstood everything. But the problem with lying is that you have to keep up with it, and they couldn't keep their version of events straight. People started putting the pieces together, and soon no one was taking their side. As for him, well, let's just say he didn't get the break he was hoping for. With the wedding canceled and his little scheme exposed, he had no backup plan. He had told some of his friends that he was ready to move on anyway, that he had options, but apparently, none of those options wanted anything to do with a guy who schemed his way out of his own wedding. And the honeymoon? Oh, that was the cherry on top. From what I heard, he actually tried to call the airline, begging to reverse the ticket changes, but since he had originally booked them with no flexibility, there was nothing they could do. He was stuck with a non-refundable, multi-layover nightmare of a flight that landed him in a random city, hours away from anywhere remotely exciting. And the luxury hotel? Gone. Instead, he ended up checking into a last-minute budget motel, alone, while his entire family and friends back home talked about how he had gotten exactly what he deserved. A few weeks later, his best man, the same one from the email where he admitted his entire plan, sent me a message. I don't know if you care, but he's been trying to act like none of this was his fault. Says he was just stressed and needed to feel in control. But the truth is, he thought he was smarter than you. He thought you'd just go along with it, let him have his way. And when you didn't, he had nothing left. That was the real reason for his breakdown. He didn't just lose the wedding, he lost his control. As for me, well, I wasn't wasting another second of my time on him. Instead of wallowing, I took the honeymoon trip myself. A few minor adjustments, a quick rebooking, and suddenly, I was the one sipping cocktails on the beach, watching the sunset, while he was probably still trying to convince someone, anyone, that he had been the victim. But I didn't care, because the truth was simple. He thought he was writing the perfect ending to his story, but in the end, I was the one who flipped the script.